Welcome to the Counterattack Playthrough series. We are playing Invasions, a game by designer Philippe Thibault, publisher Wisdom Owl. Here we see the main map set up. It focuses on Europe with a little bit of North Africa and the Middle East. I'm also going to be playing with the Into the East expansion, which extends the map off camera to the right all the way over to India. In this game, players don't just control one faction or nation, they control multiple nations. At the beginning of the game, turn 1, these are the nations that each player has. We see there's a red player, green player, yellow player, and blue player, and each has between 2 and 4 nations. That'll change over time, based on a timetable for when new nations enter the game. Let's go over the starting nations. For the red player, they're going to be in control of 2 nations that collectively represent the Roman Empire. Then they also control the Franks and the Kushans. The green player controls the Alemanni, the Kittites, and the Berbers. The yellow player controls the Persians and the Alans. And the blue player controls the Guptas, Visigoths, Ostrogoths, and Picts. There's also a number of minor nations that each player is loosely associated with. Okay, now let's go over some key aspects of the map. First, the water is split up into sea zones. And the land is split up into provinces. Some provinces have cities, and some of those cities are fortified, a little scallop symbol around the city. Finally, provinces are grouped into areas. Some areas are classified as being civilized, and some barbarian. And in general, there's a strip of territory through the middle of the map that is civilized and the rest is barbarian. Now the goal of each player is to score victory points. The most victory points wins. On turns 3, 6, 9, and then the last turn of the game, which is either the 11th or 12th turn, every player scores victory points for control of provinces and areas. Additionally, each nation has its own schedule for victory points. Some quite complicated, some fairly simple. Okay, well, enough overview. Let's dive in and start playing. Okay, so let's play the game. We'll go through the sequence of play. Now, I am using a sequence of play I got from Board Game Geek. It's from Board Game Geek user Edgar Gallego. Hopefully I said your name correctly. It's very detailed, and it also has non-sequence of play things in here that I find very useful. So anyway, I'm going to use this. It looks like a lot of stuff, but it takes a bunch of rules and weaves them into the sequence of play. So the first part of a turn is the time phase. But on turn 1, most of the things are going to be skipped because it's, I guess, taken care of by setup. So in fact, this entire page, skip. So beginning of turn 2, we'll figure out how to do that. Still in the time phase, we're going to come down and do events. So each player, not nation, is going to draw an event card. And the Into the East expansion has a nice little spot over here for event cards. So let's go ahead and draw in the order of players, and they were how I presented them. So red, green, yellow, blue. So let's do red player. Okay, we got a, looks like something useful during a movement step. Okay, so we'll put that with the red player's things. Now the back of the card, if it looks this color, that means it's like a private event. So you just put it in your hand and you're going to use it during the turn or the game. If it was sort of reddish brown, then it is a public event and would have to be red and typically affect the game state right then and there. So this is for the green player. Looks like something about a siege. Yep. Okay. Then the yellow player, another private event. Looks like you can harm an enemy during movement. And then finally, another private event. And I suppose the little eyeball must mean private, because they all had that, I believe. Looks like some kind of battle card for the blue player. Okay, so none of those are really useful at the moment, so I'll just go put those with each player. Okay, next in the sequence of play, we have raids by raider nations in timetable sequence. What does timetable sequence mean? Well, we go get the timetable, find our turn 1, go up here, it says 3 raids, Berbers, Kushans, and Picts. So that's the order we're going to go in. But what the heck are raider nations? Let's talk about the different nation types really quick. Well, nations fall into two big categories. As you can see in this overly complicated chart I made, barbarian nations and civilized nations. In general, the barbarian nations are going to be coming out of the barbarian areas of the map, and civilized nations will be in civilized areas of the map. The big difference between the two is, in broad terms, civilized nations are established and get victory points for keeping what they have. This is just a broad generality. They're going to get victory points for holding what they have. Barbarians are looking for a place to have. They're looking for homeland in general. Not all of them have the exact same desires, but in general, they will get victory points for establishing a homeland and becoming civilized. And so that's going to be a cycle in the game. Barbarians come on, try to take places away from civilized nations. They eventually become civilized. More barbarians come on, and now the roles are reversed. Amongst the barbarians, there are two major subcategories, besides just being regular old barbarians. There are raiders, and that's why we're here, because we're going to do the raider nation step. So raiders are like a very easy way to play a barbarian nation. They don't have a lot going on. They don't, in general, have a place on the map. They just come in with a couple units, attack a little place, try to get a couple points, done. So those play pretty quickly. Regular barbarians, like I said, they're in general looking for a place, a homeland. Nomadic barbarians are similar, but they are out to conquer and take places. They're like the scarier versions of the barbarians, like the Huns. Civilized side of things, there are basically two levels of sophistication: kingdom and then empire, which is more sophisticated. Kingdoms in general are trying to control provinces. Empires trying to control cities. There's other aspects of them, but we'll hit those later. Now in the middle there, in the lighter color that I marked inactive, there's some subcategories, or like maybe minor versions of barbarian and civilized. One, for lack of a better word, I called inactive barbarian. There's some barbarian nations that just sit there. Like if they get attacked by someone, a player might be obliged to help them like retreat and roll a die, but otherwise they're not being played by players. Same thing with minor kingdoms. There's a little bit more to a minor kingdom, but essentially it's just a nation that sits there, and if it's attacked, some benefit might be derived, and a player might have to intervene to roll a die on behalf of basically this non-playing nation. So that was a lot of overview, but Raider Nations step. So we're going to go to all the nations that are raiders on turn one. They'll have a little flame on their card. Okay, here we are over above the area of Mauritania, and hard to see, but Africa. And we're here because the first raider nation on turn one are the Berbers, also known as the Barbari. It says here they raid from Numidia. That flame icon in the upper right tells us they are raiders. All raider nations, from what I can tell, have the same victory points. So they're going to get a few little things if they can successfully raid. So they're going to raid from Numidia, and there's a schedule for each people and for each nation. And so we can see here these guys on turns 1 through 6, 8, 10, 11, 12, they're going to raid to Africa. So I guess they have a little pause in a little part of this, but so turn 1, they're going to raid to Africa. And Africa in this case means the area of Africa. When you raid, you randomly select 2 units from the raiders' force pool. So the Berbers, the Barbari, they have 2 units, so there's nothing to randomly select. If they had 3, we'd have randomly select. If they had 1, they'd only have 1. It says they start in Numidia. So they don't have like a homeland on the map. Maybe they're living in the, the fringes of this Numidian province here. Then in the target area, they have to pick a target province, and it has to have an empty city space. So we can see here that there's an empty city space. There's no city in it. There's an empty city space here, and these are both in Africa. So this has a city, this is a city, so it's not empty city space. And I believe over here, these guys, yeah, no city. Then it's really simple. They roll a 10-sided die and see how well their raid goes. There's a -1 for each civilized unit that is in the target space, or in a space they move through to get to their target. They can only go 2 spaces, but Tripolitania is 2 spaces away, so they can reach there. But if they went through here, they'd be going through this Roman unit. Romans are civilized. So that'd be a -1 to the die roll. We want as few -1s as we can get. So this is really the best place to go. So let's go ahead and roll the 10-sided die. We have an 8. You can see on the chart we need to draw a pillage marker. So we're going to go ahead and randomly draw pillage markers. They're all random. And we're going to get 2 gold for these guys. Now raiders, they don't have bank rolls. So the 2 gold's wasted. But, you know, it was nice knowing that they could have gotten 2 gold if there's someone else. But as we see, they also get 3 victory points. If there was a Roman limes here, the fortifications, that would have been destroyed. And then they place a raid plus marker. There's a plus marker and a minus marker. It says Incursio on there, but this is basically to say, hey, we raided this and we did a really good job. That's what the plus is for. That'll come in next turn. If they raid again, there's a bonus for raiding a place they've already raided. Okay, then we randomly draw another pillage marker and put it there. This pillage marker just indicates this place has been pillaged. You know, no one's gonna like be able to get any more gold from the people here. You know, all the towns have been cleaned out. If I had rolled an 11 or 12, these guys would have had the choice of electing to just settle down there, and they would become an inactive nation. But since they didn't, they go back off the map. Done. That was a lot of explanation for something that's really quick in this game. Okay, now we're over in Eastern Persia because the next nation in the timetable are the Kushans, or the Kushan. They raid from Kushania, and they're going to raid into the area of Persis. So we can see Persis here. Now, one thing about the Into the East expansion of the game, it says if this area, Kushania, is garrisoned, I think by a civilized nation, but maybe it's just garrisoned by anyone, the raid doesn't happen. So that's something Persia can do if they don't want to be raided each turn, is get someone up there to garrison. Like the Berbers, the Kusani only have 2 units in their force pool. Let's go ahead and put them there. Now, Persis is a big territory, but there's only one. Well, I guess there's 2. There's 2 civilized. Persis is civilized. 2 city spaces that don't have a city on them in Persis. So we can raid this one or this one. Either way, we're going to get a -1. -1 because if we raid here, this guy will give us a -1. Or if we raid here, moving through here, this guy still gives us a -1. I don't really know if it matters, so maybe we'll just raid through to here. So we're going to roll a -1 on the raid chart. That's 1 -1. That's not good. And yeah, that is 1 raiding unit permanently lost. And permanently is like permanently. It's gone for the rest of the game. If that second one is gone, on another turn, the Kushans are gone from the game. Now for the Picts, or the Picti. They're coming from Caledonia, and they want to raid to Britannia, the area of Britannia. Now they have a force pool of 3, so we're going to randomly select 2. There we go. And, it doesn't really matter. Put them in Caledonia. Okay, and then looking at the map, here's a and they're raiding into Britannia. This is an open city space. These are Roman limes, a Roman limes. That's basically the walls and fortifications at the borders. So there's no city space there. Empty city space. There's one here, but it's too far away. 1, 2, 3. So this is the only target, Bernicia. So yeah, and there's no enemy there. Roll a 9. They draw a pillage marker. What do we got here? 3 gold, not that it matters. And then a 19. We'll process that in a second. And they also get 3 victory points. So I need to, forgot to write down the victory points earlier. So yeah, the Picts have 3 victory points and the Berbers have 3 victory points, at least the player that controls them. And so we're gonna go ahead and throw a Incursio plus marker here and randomly draw a pillage marker, and all that's doing is, again, proving Bernicia has already been pillaged, so anyone else trying to pillage it, not gonna happen. Picts come off the map. Go back to their force pool. So what about that 19? Well, just like players have event cards, this is the equivalent to an event card. And I looked it up on a table. It basically says you can target a nation and it gets like a bonus when founding a city, something like that. I kind of skimmed it. But you know, the Picts aren't going to be founding a city at any point in this game, most likely. But the player playing the Picts, the blue player, is going to have other nations that could found cities, and so you know the player controls the card, not the nation. So they can use this on themselves or on a friend if they want. They can use it as a negotiating thing, I suppose. Yeah. Okay, well this seems like a good time to break, so stay tuned for part 2 of turn 1, where we do diplomacy, military phase, things like that. Also, I've changed my location and setup for filming things, so I tried to improve the lighting, the film quality, and the audio. I think it's actually worse than what I normally have, so I'm working on trying to fix it. This one's pretty bad. So anyway, thanks for watching.